Yo, what's up everybody, it's Vikton here with my in-game build guide for the Skeleton Mage's Necromancer, and this one is juicy. Dare I say, the best minion build of the league. It's got great damage with 10 to 16 million DPS depending on your budget, amazing defenses with max attack and spell block, coupled with life gain on block, solid armor with over 20k, giving it about 70% physical damage reduction, easily capped chaos resistance, 600 life regen per second, and to top it off, of course, you got that 60 plus minion army face tanking everything for you while you chill in the back, drinking your Slurpee and eating your Skittles. So far I've done Deathless Wave 30 Simulacrums. In fact, I farmed that on this build to fund my Headhunter, all the regular in-game bosses like Maven, Cyrus 9, and 60% plus quantity the Feared, Uber Blight maps, Deep Delve, and even 100% Delirious Tropical Islands. It can conquer it all. I've said it before and I'll say it again, this is one of the best builds out there that can truly do it all and do it all incredibly well. On top of all that, I'd say the overall budget for this build, what I have put into it to get all of that content cleared, is less than 50 exalts, which might seem like a lot to some, but might seem really low to others considering what content it can conquer. Now, of course, you can league start with this build and spend under 1 exalt and get you all the way to tier 16 maps, and if that's more your style, there will be a link below to my league start version of this build. Also, I want to give you guys a good idea of what this guy is going to go over. I've got a couple updated POBs for you guys. I've actually got two different versions. I have my version, which cost me about 50x, like I mentioned, and I have a mega min-maxed version from a guy I found on POE.Ninja called Skele. He did an awesome job. Props to you. No clue who that is, but you did fantastic, man. He really maxed out his character. Is doing, I think, about 16 million DPS compared to my about 10 million, which is absolutely crazy considering what I can already do with just my gear level. From there, I also have a spreadsheet, of course, that comes with trade links to every single piece of gear you're going to want to buy or craft, all the way from budget version up to that min-max version. And lastly, before we dive into the path of building, I wanted to mention that I haven't streamed as much as I would normally want to on Twitch this league. As you guys know, I had some stuff going on, but if you ever do want to ask questions, at least go follow me over there so when I do come online, you can see me come online and you can come over there and ask as many questions as you want. Always happy to help you guys out. The link's gonna be in the description below if you do want to go follow my Twitch. Also, if you're interested in supporting the channel, I do have a Patreon link below, which is going to get you access to my community Discord, where I actually do personal build reviews all the time. Alright, so enough of all that, let's hop right into the guide, and feel free to check timestamps below if you want to skip around to certain parts of the guide. Alright, here we are in my path of building, so this is my exact character. I'll go over the mega min-maxed POB after this one. There's not too many changes. And actually, correction, it's about the same DPS, it's not double. I had missed a configuration. I had not checked this correctly. So we're actually doing roughly the same DPS. He actually has about 1 million more DPS than me. But one of the big changes to his build, which will be interesting for you guys to see, is that he has like, I don't know, 800 more life than I do. So just like I said, crazy min-max gear, so it'll be pretty cool to look at that and show you guys that. So we can definitely start off here on my build. So one thing you'll note here is I typically do like leveling builds over here. If you click like the trees, and you can kind of see how to do from 1 all the way up to level 100. We're not going to do that with this guide. Like I said, this is a min-maxed guide. If you are interested in how to level this build up, I do have that guide. That's going to be linked in the description, and you can check that POB and you can see how to link how to actually level up the build all the way from 0 up to 100. All right, so let's kind of take a look at the POB here. We're not going to go over every single node out there, but we'll definitely go over everything that you need to know to get this build up and running. Basically here, it's pretty similar to what I did for my league starter. There's very minor changes here. Mainly, it's going to be some changes with, for example, the masteries. But even then, it's very similar to the build we did in our league starter. So a lot of you guys are going to be pretty familiar with the actual tree here. We're just going to get a ton of life. We're going to get basically every single minion damage node that we can. We're going to get some block over here because, like I said, this is a max block build. As you can see over here, our block chance is capped at 75 and our spell block is at 71, which is very, very, very good for our defenses. So you have a little bit of block up here as well. We've got the block over here. And as far as our block mastery, we have this one right here. This is what's going to actually cap us. It's going to give you, I think it gives you, 5 extra block chance, which is pretty solid just for a single mastery node. It's 1% block chance per 5 on your shield. And depending on your shield, you're probably going to have around 20 to 25 block chance on your shield. So it'll either be 4 or 5 block chance, but either one of those will cap you. As you can see, I am over capped by 1, so that'll cap you up perfectly. As far as let's go over our minion masteries first here. We have the 20% increase effective offering. That is affecting we're actually using bone offering for the extra block chance. So as you can see, it's 37%, and then that is actually giving us 20% increase effect. So that's really, really good for the block chance. Very, very good for the increase effect offering on there. And again, we are going to be using the bone offering ourselves as well, because we have Mistress of Sacrifice up here, which is your offering skills also affect you. That's how we're capping out our block chance, because we are not using flesh offering with this build, we're using bone offering. Very good. So we're going to come up here. So this one I actually would take last. Minions have 100% increased critical strike chance. That's not really that much of a damage increase. As you can see there, it's only 1.3%. So I would actually do that one last. And this is a level 97 build. So that's literally like you can do that like your last couple points. I wouldn't worry about that too early on. For our other one, just the very last one, there's actually not too many. Oh, I don't know why it says that. Let's take that away. And I'm pretty sure that's actually the only ones that we can really use on this. And I'll go over why we're not using some of these other ones right here. So for example, you guys might think that we would want to do like the penetrate cursed enemies, but we're actually not going to do that because we do have flesh offering chest piece, which lowers their resistances down to 0. And then we cannot prevent like it can't go below 0. So we can't shred enemy resistances by any other method. So we're actually not going to take that. So this is actually a level 96 build. Very good. So with that, that's actually the only minion masteries that we have. We don't have any defensive minion masteries, but that's not a big deal. So let's go over the life ones we have here. So we have first, you get life mastery, which is just fantastic. 50 life when you're early leveling. You get this at like level, I don't know, 15. That's crazy. It's really, really good. We get this one as well. We get vitality as 100% increased mana reservation efficiency. I would also get this one close to the last point. So like once you're level, probably you're going to be level 93 plus once you pick this up, because you're actually not going to use vitality until you get 2 enlightened 3s. So that sounds a little scary and expensive, but you don't need vitality at all. It really doesn't help. I mean, obviously it helps, pretty good. We have just under 600 life regen. Let's actually take off vitality and show you guys what it looks like without it, because it's nothing that too crazy. We're at 351, so it's not that much, but it's also obviously very, very good to actually have that. But you're not going to do that until you get your enlightened level 3s, 2 of them as well. So, but again, not a huge deal. If you don't have your 2 enlightened 3s, you're just not going to run vitality. But once you do get those enlightened level 3s, then you can run vitality, and at that point you would want to make sure you get this life mastery node right there. Very good. We're going to go over here. This is pretty standard. We're going to get that 10% increased life. 10% reduced life recovery rate is really not a big deal. 10% life is very strong. And then let's go down to this one. I think this is our last mastery node we haven't talked about. We're going to get armor mastery. Determination has increased mana reservation efficiency. This is going to allow us to run all of our auras. Determination being the most expensive, so we definitely want this. So definitely pick that up early on, and that would be very, very good. As you can tell, determination is actually giving us most of our armor. We have 17,000. Let's go and turn this off, and it goes down to 5,000. So pretty crazy, pretty crazy. Let's turn it back on, and we go up to, so let's see here. We go from 49% physical damage reduction up to 74. So really, really good right there. Let's go back over the tree, and then of course I guess we didn't talk about this one, but this one's pretty standard for almost like every single build that comes up here. We're getting the reservation mastery, of course, because that is going to again allow us to run all of our auras. Other than that, very basic tree. There's really nothing too crazy here. I guess what I would just say as far as like your last points that you could do, maybe this over here, like these 1, 2, 3, 4 points. It's a lot of life for sure. But it's not that necessary. These were the last 4 points that I got on my tree, and I was doing wave 30 without these life nodes right here, and was doing just fine in Simulacrum, for example. And that's like super damage in there, and that's just because we have so many layers of defense, which is covering our butts. Very good. So let's talk about our clusters here, because our clusters are actually very, very important. We have For our large, we have an 8 passive. If you can not afford an 8 passive, you can only afford a 9 passive. That's totally fine. Just get a 9, but just know you're going to have to spend 1 extra point. But again, that's not too big of a deal, right? So we're going to go with Renewal, and we're going to go with Call to Slaughter. Call to Slaughter is really good for us. Minions created recently have increased attack speed, or I'm sorry, increased cast speed, and cast speed is very good for this build. Cast speed is very good for our mages. And then also the 30% move speed, which is pretty solid there. Now, this is the most important medium cluster, and you got to get this early on, guys. You got to get this super early on. Sorry about that. So Blessed Rebirth, minions created recently cannot be damaged. And the reason we actually have to get this is because the skeletons are pretty tanky, but they're not that tanky. They're definitely going to die. So we have to get this basically in order to do any type of bossing. For example, like Cyrus, if you're ever doing Cyrus, if you're doing Maven, any type of that stuff, your minions are gonna die. So if you're spawning them pretty frequently, they have 4 seconds of immunity to damage, right? So that's incredibly important. Like, I would even get this medium cluster before you get your large cluster. Like, literally just pop in your medium right here and literally even just get Blessed Rebirth. It's that big of a deal in order to do pretty solid DPS and like have it consistent where your minions are staying alive and you're summoning them very frequently as well. So pretty good there. And then of course we just get Renewal. We're stacking renewals because it's just more damage. It's a 5% more damage multiplier. And then over here, this is the, I would say this is going to be your, what, probably from like level 92 to level 95 points, something in there. After 90, you're definitely going to want to pick up your second medium cluster. Because it's not a huge deal, it's just a little bit extra DPS. And we're going to go with, again, Renewal, and we're going to go with Feasting Fiends. Feasting Fiends just because it's going to give a little bit more damage, and it's going to give, I mean, that's pretty much it. A little bit more damage and a little bit more life to, for example, your Animate Guardian. And that is your cluster jewels. Nothing too crazy there. Again, this tree is pretty basic. Really nothing crazy at all here, especially because it is almost the exact same as the league starter, so we're really not changing too much. Very straightforward. As far as our points here for our ascendancy, again, very straightforward. Basically the same thing that we get for almost every single build out there. We are not getting Commander of Darkness though, so definitely note that, because it is going to be a little bit more interesting to gear out your character, because you're not going to get that free 30 elemental resistances. So you're just gonna have to get a little bit more elemental resistances on your gear, which really isn't too big of a deal, and I was able to do it pretty comfortably. But your first points is gonna be Mindless Aggression, your seconds is gonna be Unnatural Strength for a ton of damage, and then your third is actually gonna be Mistress of Sacrifice when you're leveling up. That's gonna give you that block chance, which is really nice. And your very last points for Uber Lab is gonna be Bone Barrier for a ton of extra defenses. Very good. And as I said over here, let's just kind of quickly go over kind of where we're at. We have the almost max block chance with spell block, and we do have max block chance with block. We've got full capped resistances, of course, and then we have our capped chaos res. We've got 10% unreserved mana, and again, that is with 2 enlightens, and that is pretty important. What I would actually say to you guys and give you guys a kind of a quick tip here is you can also do a couple different things. Like, let's see where I did. I think I picked this node right here. Yeah. For a while there, in order to, I go over my item here. So when you have a weapon like this, when it triggers socketed spell, when you use a skill, you actually have to have a certain amount of mana in order to cast your skeletons, but also cast the skills that are in your wand. Because it casts both at the same time. So you're going to get a point where if you don't have that much mana, you're not going to cast like Bone Offering, for example. And that's in your weapon 1. And Desecrate as well, weapon 1. So we have to have enough mana in order to cast everything. So if you're in a weird spot where you don't have your enlightens, which I was until level like 93 or something, you can pick this node up here. It's just 1 point, and it gives you 20 mana and 10 maximum mana, and that's going to give you enough mana to actually cast all of your stuff and be pretty comfortable. And you're going to have a internal mana flask, so anytime you cast anything, your mana is going to go right back up to full, but you just have to have enough mana to cast both your skill and your triggered skill in your wand. So just kind of note that. So if you don't have your enlightens, I would get this node right here. If you do have your enlightens, you can drop it. Very good. And then we already talked about the life regen. We're at right under 600, and for our DPS we're at 14 million, and that is with Vol Summon Skeletons clicked. We actually have Vol Summon. If you're mapping, you're gonna have Vol Summon Skeletons up 100% of the map. Even on some bosses you can have them up like 80% of the boss, so it's actually pretty reliable to just go ahead and say that you're gonna have your Vol Summon Skeletons up. And for example, like in simulacrums, I have them up 100% of the time in every simulacrum fight as well. It's once you get to the like wave 25 plus where it's not going to be up, you have to kind of time it, and you really only want your Vol Summon Skeletons out when you're fighting like the bosses at wave 25 plus. But even then you can almost have it up 100% of the time, so pretty reliable to just go ahead and click that, and that is our pretty reliable damage there. We can kind of go over the configuration here as well, so you can see there's no shenanigans going on. We have minions always on full life. Yes, they're always going to be on full life, and that is because they're actually getting a lot of their health, your skeleton specifically, converted to energy shield. And they're going to have actually just a little bit of life, and that little bit of life will always be full because it's going to have a buffer of a ton of energy shield before that. So you're actually going to have that up 100% of the time basically. Your minions have power charges and frenzy charges. Absolutely, they're going to be full all the time because we do have our specters. We have carnage chieftains and host chieftains, and those are going to be up 24/7. And then after that we have you and your minions killed recently, and have you summoned have you used a minion skill recently? We're going to be using minion skills constantly. Just using your summon skeleton is a minion skill, right? So just clicking them, it's going to be triggering that basically. Feeding Frenzy is active, yes, and then literally nothing else. And the reason I have this as is enemy a boss, no, that is because of our flesh crafter, which we'll go over here, which we'll talk about here shortly. But short note is that Flesh Crafter, while minions have energy shield, their hits ignore monster elemental resistances. So basically what that means is that it turns it from, like, for example, like a Cyrus, where it's going to have a bunch of elemental resistances, down to no, it does not have any resistances. So that's why the no there is checked, just so you guys know. Cool. So that is the tree, that is the ascendancy, and the kind of damage calculations there, so you can kind of get an idea of what I did there. Let's go over to the skills. So first and foremost is Vol Summon Skeletons. You absolutely want a Vol Summon Skeletons. Okay, guys? Vol Summon Skeletons. It's just so much more damage. Let's actually unclick Vol Summon Skeletons. You can see how much more damage it is. It goes from 8.5 up to 14 million DPS. Crazy amount of extra damage. It's like, what, 35-40% more damage. So even if you have a 20-0, still very good. A 20-0 is still very good. So Vol Summon Skeletons, we have Pierce, we have Volley, and this is our mapping setup, okay? Pierce, Volley, Elemental Focus, Awaken Minion Damage, and Spell Echo. Now again, this is my build specifically, so I actually don't have like Awakened Elemental Focus right now. So obviously if I got that, I would have more damage. Same thing with Awakened Spell Echo. I don't have that. One thing that you could do is get an Anomalous Spell Echo. Let's see what that does. I think that, yeah, it gives us a little bit more damage. So that's obviously a lot cheaper than Awakened Spell Echo, right? So you could do that. And then now note, if you are going to do a boss specifically, so like Cyrus, Maven, and even in my wave, wave 30 plus simulacrums, stuff like that, I will switch out Volley if it's a boss like Kosus, Omniphobia, that type of stuff. I'll switch Volley to slower projectiles. It's actually not too much extra damage, and I'll show you right here, but it is a decent little damage increase, a little unchecked Volley. So 17 million compared to what, the 14.2. So nothing crazy, but I mean, that's still a pretty good little extra chunk there when you're just fighting bosses, right? So switch your Volley to slower projectiles when you're doing bosses. Very good. Let's go on over to our, let's actually just kind of start up top here. So these are our auras. We're gonna have Zealotry, we're gonna have Enlighten level 3. You can obviously do 4 if you want. If you're a rich boy, but I have a 3, and you can do Tempest Shield, and Tempest Shield is absolutely crazy this league, guys. 20% chance to block spell damage while holding a shield, so right, and it also gives us immunity to shock, so really crazy, really crazy. And then Awaken Generosity as well. Generosity, if you don't have an Awaken, actually it's not too big of a deal if you just have a regular Generosity. Keep that in mind, and that is, make sure you link that specifically to Zealotry. And it's also important to note, you got to do exactly the links that I have here, because like, for example, we do not want our Generosity linked to our determination or anything like that. You have to do the exact links that I have here. Generosity should only be supporting zealotry, and then it's fine to have Tempest Shield because that it doesn't affect the minions. In our weapon here, so we have 3 skills in our weapon. We have Bone Offering, and actually you need to do it in this order specifically. So you need to get these exact colors. You need to do Desecrate first, so a green, and then a blue for Bone Offering, and then you would do a red. So we have Desecrate, and you could keep that at level 1. Do not level it up past level 1 because it's just going to make the mana cost more, and there's no point. Bone Offering, and then Defiance Banner. Now Defiance Banner is actually crazy, guys. 10% mana reservation is insane for what this gives us. It gives us so much extra armor. You can see 17,000 go down to 12,000. That's insane, guys. That's insane. So definitely want to use Defiance Banner. Super solid there. Now a tip, what I would do in order to get those specific colors, it's actually pretty easy to do. You can do your Benchcraft, and you would want to do 2 sockets is the first craft. So you want to make your wand 2 sockets, and then you would want to do 1 green color, and then you would do that until it's the green color in the first socket. So it would be green, blue, and then after you get that, you would do 3 sockets, the recipe for that, and you would do that until you get a red one for your third, right? So it's probably gonna take a little bit, but you would do 3 sockets. Is it red? Yes or no? If it's no, then you go back down to 2 sockets. So you do the 2 socket recipe, and then you just keep doing that. You go 2 socket, 3 socket, 2 socket, 3 socket, until you can get a red in that last one for your Defiance Banner. Perfect. We already talked about summon skeletons. Let's talk about our weapon 2 here. We actually typically do our kind of support minions in our helmet. We're actually not going to do that with this build. We're going to do something a little bit different because we need some extra stats on our helmet, and we're not able to get that, like the normal +3 and then minion life on there. And it's actually not a big deal. My Spectres and my AG never die, even with just this setup. So it's really not a big deal to put these in your weapon compared to your helmet. So we're going to go with Raise Spectre. Definitely trying it at level 21. I think they're, I don't know what, 30 chaos or something like that, but it gives them a lot more life. So I would definitely try and get a Raise Spectre level 21. We're going to have a minion life. Try and get a 20 quality on this as well. That's actually, I think it's extra life. Yep, 15% maximum life, or a little, not in maximum, increased life, right? So very good on that for the quality. And then we're going to definitely want a level 21 Animate Guardian. I would actually not set up your Animate Guardian until you get a level 21 specifically. Like, don't get a 20. It's just going to give it more life and make it more tanky. And I will actually talk about the Animate Guardian's setup right now. All right, let's real quick go over our Animate Guardian specific to this character, because there's a couple very small changes to this if you were playing a different type of build, maybe say physical minions. This one is of course elemental, so we're going to do things slightly different. First and foremost, we're going to go with the gloves here. These are like 2 chaos, curse enemies with enfeeble on hit, which is really good for defenses. Typically you would do something like elemental weakness on hit here, but we don't need that since we do have the flesh crafter. So we're going to go with a defensive one instead. So we're going to go with enfeeble on hit. For our boots here, we do need these boots specifically if you do want to run a curse on your Animate Guardian. This one is because you can apply an additional curse, so that means we can use enfeeble, plus we can use the sniper's mark. For our helmet here, we do have nearby enemies take 6% increased elemental damage, so that's just a flat 6% more multiplier, which is pretty solid. That can be, if you really want to min-max, you can elevate that mod to get a little bit more extra damage there, but you don't need to. This one, for example, was the cheapest one on the market, and I bought it for 1 Exalt. The Kingmaker here, you can purchase this for around maybe like, I think 40 chaos. So not too bad, but this is absolutely crazy. It just gives you a ton of defenses and it gives you a ton of damage, so a very solid pickup, and is basically mandatory for any of these builds. And for 40 chaos, that's not too bad at all. And for our chest piece, we are going to go with the Doppelganger. This makes your dude completely immortal, which we used to do kind of, the Mask of the Stitch Demon helmet and then a body armor with some max extra energy shield, but we're not doing that now because we want to get that extra damage from the helmet. But Doppelganger allows us to do that because it's going to let him take less physical and chaos damage, up to 25%, which is really good in itself. But on top of that, anytime that he gets hit, he's going to regen 10% of his life over 1 second. And I'm pretty confident that actually stacks as well. So you'll see very rarely, even if he does get hit, his HP bar will just shoot right back up to full instantly. He would have to get hit like super hard in order to die. Mine specifically has almost 75,000 life, and that's actually pretty low for an Animate Guardian. But even there, it would have to get hit for so much damage as a one shot, and that's just not going to happen unless you're doing some absolutely insane content. And if you're doing some absolutely insane content and it dies, you can probably afford the 2 exalts to kind of gear your guy out, because that is what this costs overall, is just over 2 exalts. It's about 2.2 exalts to get the setup, but it is so much extra damage and it is very good defenses, so I highly recommend it. So let's throw these on the ground. Let's get my guy up and running, and we're gonna animate, 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 and animate. There you go. And we just gave us so much damage and so much defense. Fantastic. Highly recommend it for 2.4 exalts. All right, perfect. That was the Animate Guardian setup, which is going to be fantastic for this build. It's actually going to give it even more damage than that. I do not have the calculations included for the Animate Guardian in here. I think it's about a 25 to 30% more DPS having that Animate Guardian. So you're actually looking probably what, about 18 to 19 million DPS total, if once you have your Animate Guardian up. So you go from about 14.2 up to about 18 to 19 million DPS when you have that Animate Guardian. So it's a crazy amount of damage. So it's definitely something I would suggest for you guys to get once you have a couple X to spare for the Animate Guardian. Perfect. Let's move on to our gloves here. We have Flame Dash, Determination, Vitality, and Enlighten. I have a 4 here, but again, you can have a 3 and be okay. What I would say probably is if you have a 3, if you have 2 3s, I would maybe even still click this node right here, the mana. That's just going to give you enough mana to cast everything comfortably. It's that 113. It's like, I think you need like around 110 mana in order to be pretty comfortable casting your spells through your trigger wand. So if you have no Enlightens, you absolutely need this. If you have 2 Enlightened 3s, I would probably say go ahead and use it as well. But if you at least have 1 Enlightened 4, at that point you can drop it. So I'm actually going to save that on here just so you guys, because I think most people will probably not have the 2 4 Enlightens for a while. So I'm actually just going to click on that so you guys can have that. Okay, so let's go back to the skills here. And in our helmet, so we have Sniper's Mark, Feeding Frenzy, Summon Stone Golem, and Convocation. So our Stone Golem, make sure it's up all the time because we do want it to be triggering Feeding Frenzy. Stone Golem is of course great because it's going to give us some extra life regen and it's triggering that Feeding Frenzy. It does die occasionally, but it really only dies in some crazy content that I've been doing, like the wave 28 plus where it might die. It typically is actually okay, but sometimes it dies. It's super easy to just resummon him real quick. So get him up as soon as possible so he can trigger that Feeding Frenzy. It's actually a ton of damage, so make sure you get that up. And then we have Convocation. Do note that Convocation actually doesn't work for Summon Skeletons, which is kind of annoying, but it does work for like your Animate Guardian and your Stone Golem. So I would still use Convocation because it is nice to make sure your Animate Guardian is always around you for the defensive boost. Cool, that is our skills. So let's go ahead and go over our items. We're going to go with this wand, which I kind of already showed you. You can craft this yourself. You can buy these. The most important thing here is the +1 to level of spell skill gems and +1 to level of minion skill gems. And there is a video specifically on how to craft this wand. I will put that in the description. And if it's not in the description yet, just note that you can always Google search that, or not Google search that, you do a YouTube search, and there's tons of guides out there. I just can't remember actually if I have a guide on there myself. If I have a guide, I'll put it in the description. If I don't, just Google it. I know there's tons of guides out there on how to actually craft this, but just note that if you want just the base, right, just a level of spell gems and level of minion skills, if that's all you want on your wand, it's going to be about 3 exalts to craft that. If you want also the trigger socketed spells, you can just buy that straight up because you need that empty suffix, which are kind of gambling if you craft it yourself. Obviously you might get something crazy, right? And that would be fantastic, or you might not have an empty suffix, and then at that point you can't do the trigger socketed spell, which would suck because it is actually a ton of extra quality of life to have that on there. You can just purchase that for like 4 exalts. And mine specifically, I did craft mine, and I was able to get that minions have a little bit extra cast speed. Like I said earlier, cast speed is absolutely crazy for our minions. And then we have the trigger socketed spells there. So this wand, I crafted, it took me 2 attempts, so it probably cost about 6.5 exalts to craft this wand myself. For our weapon here, we're going to go with a pretty basic shield. I went for as much life as possible. I needed to fill out my chaos resistances as well. So I got a shield with basically just life, chaos resistance, and then also recover life when you block. Now that is the most important stat on here, recover life when you block, because we have so much block chance, you're actually going to be triggering that all the time. And it's you can see in some of the footage here, when I take damage, it like instantly shoots up, especially in simulacrums, because you're taking so many small hits just because there's so many monsters everywhere that your life like instantly goes back up to full. So really good extra defensive layer there for the shield. And obviously try and do it on a armor base. As you can see here, I think this gives me like almost 727 armor, right? So it's actually pretty solid for armor. Try and not get one on an energy shield base. Try and get one on an armor base. For our helmet here, now this is important. This is, like I said, we usually do that minion helmet where it's +3 and then minion life. We're not going to do that here. I actually just spammed greed fossils, not greed fossils. I spammed greed essences, and I got the really high life, and then I looked for 1 resistance. So I got the tier 1 fire resistance there, and then I can't remember exactly what I did. I think I might have annulled once in order to have the ability to do that. Can have up to 3 crafted modifiers. And the most important one here, though, when you craft on there, is you need an open prefix so you can get the +1 to maximum skeletons. That's the most important. The +1 to maximum skeletons is obviously, a ton of extra damage, so we definitely want that on there. And then I got the extra little bit of lightning and chaos res, and that was just to cap out my chaos res. And of course, you want to do this ideally on a bone helmet. For that, minions have 20% increased damage, and then also with an enchant, skeletons deal 40% increased damage. Very good. Now for our body armor, this is best in slot body armor with that implicit there of +2 to level of socketed duration gems. So let's talk about Fleshcrafter in general real quick, and why it's the best for us over like a rare or something else. So while minions have energy shield, their hits ignore monster elemental resistances, so it takes all monster resistances down to 0, and it is just a ton of extra damage. You guys saw that it went from 8 million up to 14.2, so it's a ton of damage, and it's consistent damage. Like, you don't need anything fancy, you don't need to be cursing anything, it's just flat, right? And it's really good for bosses, it's really good for mapping, just a fantastic armor. And then on top of that, the best implicits, and just by the way, so like this as a 6 link with the right colors is going to cost you like 60 chaos. It's crazy, guys. It's super cheap. And then if you want the second best implicit, it's +1 to all level gems in the chest, and I think that costs like 4 exalts, 5 exalts. And then I bought this one for, I think I bought it for 9 exalts with the +2 to socketed duration gems. And Vol Summon Skeletons has the duration tag. Actually, I think both of them have the duration tag, so duration is perfect there. And the +2 to level of gems is pretty crazy, but you can get away with the +1, or you can get away with nothing on there and be just fine spending 60 chaos. But it's not that bad. Even the +1 being like 4 to 5 exalts, that's really not bad, especially considering some of these builds out there that are in the min-max versions, you're spending like 20, 30, 40 exalts. We're spending 4 or 9. Not bad at all, guys. For our gloves, now you can do a couple different things here. I specifically went with the strategy of getting a fractured pair of gloves, and you can do one of 2 things here. You can get either a fractured dexterity or you can get a fractured life. I went with the dexterity, and then I just rolled greed essences, and I was able to get that life and 2 elemental resistances, and I had an open prefix in order to craft the minions deal increased damage. It is very important to get dexterity here. We do need a lot of dexterity on this build. You probably didn't need as much as I have on here, but that's the reason I chose this chest, or this glove here specifically, and I went with one. I'm a little disappointed it doesn't have as much armor as I would like. It's an armor evasion, but I had to get that because I needed the dexterity fracture there. But that's the most important thing. Dexterity on here, then get some life and some resistances, and then if you can't have an open prefix, like to craft that minions deal increased damage, it's not a big deal, but obviously it's ideal if you can do that. For your boots, kind of the same concept. I actually just bought these straight up. I think I bought them for like really naughty, like 20-30 chaos actually. But it's very important to get dexterity on these as well. You can kind of try the same thing if you want, like if you can fracture a dexterity, or not you fracture, if you can buy it with some fractured dexterity on there, you can craft. I don't really like doing that because you're not guaranteed to hit the minion movement speed, or I'm sorry, not the movement speed for you when you're greed essence spamming. I would just buy these if you can. They're really not that expensive. You can try and do that, and you can also do note that you can substitute dex here and maybe get dexed on, you know, something else like your rings or your amulet. So you don't absolutely have to have dex here, but I would do it to make gearing out the rings and the amulet a little bit easier. Moving on to our amulet, we are going to craft this ourselves. I crafted this one myself. Obviously you can buy one if you want, but it's probably better to craft it yourself. And you're going to craft it by using an Awakener's Orb. You're going to get a amulet with +1 to maximum number of skeletons, and you're going to get another one with plus level of intelligence gems. Make sure that one of those is on a jade amulet for the extra dexterity. And then Awakener Orb those together and pray to RNGs that you get something good. I was able to wipe my suffixes. And then from that, I was able to do the multi-mod, and then I put on life, and then I put on strength and intelligence. I actually needed both of those. I think I needed more intelligence than I needed strength. We do need 200, I think, was it 242 int for this wand, so just make sure that you're somehow able to get 242 int, and that's how I was able to do it with my amulet here. For our rings, this is the kind of the min-max way that you can do it, is try and get a ring with minions deal increased damage. You can get up to 35% increased damage on there. Obviously it's just you're going for life, and you're going for tons of resistances, and minions deal increased damage. And that's the same thing for both of these. Now, one thing that's actually pretty good about this is you don't need unset rings. So that opens up a ton of different ring options for us, since we don't need an unset ring. For example, like this one, I was able to get an amethyst ring, so tons of chaos res on this one. I actually have, what is it? It's like over 60 chaos res on this ring alone, so pretty solid there. And I just crafted life, and it didn't have that much minion damage, but I thought this one was pretty good. I think I bought this for like 1 exalt, and I think I bought this one for like 10-15 chaos. So honestly, all of this gear is pretty cheap. I crafted this one like myself, like I said, for about 4 exalts. Then I crafted, you know, the multi-mod on there, so it's a total about 6 exalts for that one. The boots, like I said, I bought those for like 20 chaos, 30 chaos, something like that. The gloves, I did pay a little bit more for the gloves because I also crafted them myself. I think I paid probably total about an exalt for that. So as you can tell here, like even min-max gear, it's not too expensive, For the Darkness Enthroned, I was able to get one with corrupted chaos resistance. It's got -27 fire, not a big deal. I was already way over capped on fire, so that helped out, kind of round out my chaos resistance right there. Pretty nice. And the reason that we're going with Darkness Enthroned here is because of the jewels. These jewels for summon skeleton mages are insane, actually insane. So minions deal increased damage if you use minion skill recently. So together with these 2 jewels, we're getting like 60 to, I think it's like maybe even 70% increased minion damage. Absolutely crazy. You want to go with, and in this order of importance as well, right? So the minions deal increased damage if you use a minion skill recently, and then your second one is either minions have increased attack and cast speed if you or your minions have killed recently, or just flat minions have increased cast speed. The cast speed one is better for like literally, I guess literally only Cyrus and Awakener, Cyrus and Maven. You're gonna get the killed recently in every other situation, so that's the one that I went with. And then lastly, if you can get ones with, you know, increased extra damage, lightning, cold, fire, all those are great. And if you really want to be crazy, you can also get some life on there as well, but those are going to be pretty expensive. Like I think for both of these jewels, I paid about an exalt for both of these. This one has a little bit life on there too, and I got lucky. I paid an exalt for this one. But if you're talking more life, then you're talking probably like 4 exalts, 5 exalts for those, but you can get away with just the ones that I have, and I paid about an exalt for both of them. This one, same concept, right? It's got the 20% increased damage, it's got some extra damage on there, and then it's got the minions have increased attack and cast speed if you've killed recently. And I got lucky and got that extra life. Cool. For our flasks here, this is our life flask, Blood of the Karui. The reason I like this flask is because we do have quite a bit of life. We have at least, 5.4k. So it's going to do a full heal at the end of flask effect. So after 2.3 seconds, you're going to get a full heal. This has saved me so many times, actually doing like the wave 30 plus, the wave like, I don't know, 25 plus in simulacrums. I just click it and it full heals me instantly. It's really, really good. I would do that over any other regular life flask. So we're going to, of course, want an enduring mana flask. You don't need of grounding. I actually haven't kind of situated that. Like maybe actually like the poison one would probably be better to get poison immunity. So that would probably be better there. But definitely get an enduring mana flask, enduring eternal mana flask. And that's going to be allowing us to comfortably cast all of our skeletons all the time. So quartz flask. We're going to absolutely get a quartz flask if you are doing simulacrums. That's what I would say there. If you're not doing simulacrums, use a regular move speed flask here. The reason that I have a quartz flask doing simulacrums, once you get past wave like 20, shit gets crazy and there's like thousands of monsters, and it really helps to be able to have phasing and run through stuff. So that's why I have that. Again, if you are not doing simulacrums wave 20 plus, then just get a move speed flask there. We have a granite flask. That's actually wrong. It shouldn't be a granite flask. I'm not sure why it says granite flask. So it's not a granite flask. You want a basalt flask. And the basalt flask is going to give you more physical damage reduction. So we're going to do basalt flask. I'm not sure why it says that. I'll fix that for you guys. Because we have the Rumi's concoction, which is a granite flask, as the last flask. And of course that one is very important for us because it's going to cap us out on attack damage, block chance, and it's going to almost cap us out on the block spell damage. And we're going to want use when charges are full as well. And we're going to want that on, let me see if I did any other ones. Nope, just that one. So use when charges are full. So it's basically going to automate that flask for you, so you're never going to have to click it. And it's going to be always kind of popping, especially when you're doing simulacrums. You're literally going to have this up 24/7. And then I will fix that one. Again, you want a basalt flask, and you can do a couple things. The reason I went with chilled here is because of simulacrums. There are so much like chilled ground effects in the simulacrums that I got use when you become chilled as the enchant, and then reduce effect of chill during flash effect. So that's the reason I went with that. If you're not doing simulacrums, you could do something different. Like you could do ignite immunity, or you could do poison immunity, something like that. It'd be totally fine. As far as our jewels here, we have a quickening covenant and we have a fortress covenant. Very good damage options, but also makes your minions more tanky with extra block chance and with extra, I think this one is, quickening. This one's what, dodge? Chance to spell suppress. That's right, they changed it. It's not dodge anymore. But it's got the 16% increased attack speed, which, remember I said that is very important. So when you're buying the quickening covenant, filter it by the most cast speed possible. Very good. And then as far as our other jewels, we already talked about these. I'll show you so here's another one of my jewels. And again, increased minion damage. We've got some added extra damage, elemental, and then we have the minions increased attack and cast speed. Do I have any more? I think I do. Same concept here. And I actually have another one, same concept here. These add so much damage, guys. It's actually crazy. And all of these are relatively inexpensive. You can get them for, like, this one probably was like 30-40 chaos. My best two are these two. And like I said, I paid an exalt for those. And the rest of them are probably like 30 to 50 chaos, somewhere in there. So overall, like I said, this build is not too expensive. I paid probably under 50 exalts for my full gear set, and I'm doing all the content in the game, everything possible. I'm doing it and I'm rocking it. So I don't think that's too bad at all for 50 exalts. Not at all. Perfect. So that is my tree, my skills, my items. Let's kind of go over at least his build. Oops, sorry. The POE.Ninja guy, Skele, and I'll just show you a couple of his items, which are pretty cool. He had a pretty good idea to, I guess, I don't know if he fractured them himself or if he bought them like this, but he had to have fractured them himself, and he spent tons of money. but he did all of his jewels with 40 life on there as well, and that's how he's able to get the 6,000 plus life. So he's got like 600, 700 more life than I do in my build, and mainly that's because of him doing all of these on here. Now he did minions have increased cast speed just flat, like the 4% there. Like I said, that's really only better for actual just like Cyrus and Maven. Any other situation, I actually do think it's better to go with the other one, but maybe he just got this one and he was like, hell yeah, I'll just keep that, right? So like this one's crazy. That's a crazy jewel. And I think he did the same ones for the other ones. Yep, same concept here. 40 life. Then the minions deal increased damage recently. Same thing here. So he did those. Let's go over the rest of his gear. He has this one. I wanted to mention this one. I actually don't know how to craft this. Maybe some guys in the comments might be able to kind of let us know on how to craft this, but this is a crazy wand, dudes. So you got the +1/+1, right? It's got a little bit extra minion damage, nothing crazy there, but he's got minions have increased 20% increased cast speed, which is fantastic. And then the banger here is Zealotry has 38% increased aura effect. Crazy. So that's probably where he's getting that extra million DPS over me, is that Zealotry has increased aura effect. If anybody knows how to craft this, I'm sure it's not too complicated. Let us know in the comment section. I have no clue. I haven't even looked into it because I've been totally fine with my DPS paying, you know, what, 9 exalts for mine. I bet this thing is worth way more than 9. This has got to be worth 50 plus exalts. And then the rest of his gear is pretty similar to actually what I did. Just kind of go down here. Oh, this was another cool thing that you guys can do. So technically, if you guys really want to min-max, you can also try and Krangle your boots and get +1 to maximum number of skeletons. That's another pretty crazy thing to get. I'm not even gonna try that on my boots, to be honest. I'm totally fine with just having the 12 skeletons. He has 13, and again is doing extra damage there. So pretty cool. I think that's probably the only other craziness. His amulet was absolutely crazy, with also having a life roll on there as well. Pretty cool. And I think the rest of his gear is pretty actually similar to what I chose for mine. I think that's pretty, yeah, that's pretty much it. So like I said, he's got, you know what, 1.5, oops, it just closed. One POB crashes for me all the time. I don't know if that does it for you guys, but mine crashes all the time. It's pretty frustrating. But he had what, 1.4 million more DPS than me, and he probably spent an extra 60-70 exalts on his gear compared to mine. To me, I don't think that's necessarily worth it because I'm already rocking all the content. But if you're playing like 1 build, 2 builds a league, and you just want to min-max, definitely check out that POB. It's got some cool ideas about how you can spend your money. Cool, but that is all I got on this one, guys. Fantastic build. This is definitely the best build, in my opinion, that you can do for minions. I do want to try out this whole Akali's Fang Squire stuff. I know that's pretty expensive, right? I think this is more what most people can play. I think most people can achieve, like, you know, a 10 exalt build, and then like you're a little bit more than casual players can achieve that 50 exalt build. So I think this is probably the best that you can do for minions, period, for like 95% of you guys out there playing. I think, you know, for the crazy people that have a lot more currency, there's probably some more cool stuff you can do with like the Squire Shield. But this has got it all, guys, and I'm super happy to show you this, guys. I've been getting asked tons and tons and tons, when are you releasing the min-max version? Here it is. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys have any questions, obviously ask in the chat here, and I will do my best to answer as many as possible. And I think that is all I got. I do think I want to try the Squire Shield, and I'm not sure if I'm going to do a Akali's Fang or if I'm going to do something else, but I do want to try that, so I'm going to farm that up. You know what, actually, there's, if we want to be crazy, what you can also do, I don't remember what it's called. I don't remember what it's called, but I'm going to tell you guys. So for your items, I saw another guy do this. It was in a video on YouTube when he was doing wave 30. So his amulet was that like 90 exalt amulet, which was another skill gem. It's basically, I think it's like, you guys will probably know in the comments. So you guys let me know in the comment section what that amulet was called. But it allows you to socket it with another gem, and I would socket it with, what is it? It's more damage when you're on full life. I don't know what the heck that called is. But that one, that gives so much extra damage. So let's actually click the skills. Let's go to race, this one. Full life. Damage on full life. That's what we would do. Look at that. It adds so much damage. Let's uncheck. Oh my god, it adds 5 million DPS. That's actually crazy. So if you can afford that 90 Exalt Amulet, that would be insane to get that one, and then you would socket it with damage on full life for an extra like 5 million DPS. But that, like I said, that's 90 Exalts. I'm not gonna be doing that. That is a pretty cool like mega min max option. Okay, cool. That's all I got, guys. I appreciate you guys. If y'all stuck through this whole video, you're awesome. Everybody hit that like button, and let me know in the comment section if y'all are enjoying this build. I will see you guys in the next one.